May the words of thy mouth and the meditations of our hearts be pleasing in your sight, O Lord, our rock and our redeemer. Amen. Well, this morning we are celebrating All Saints' Day. And just as a reminder, what's the difference between a saint with a capital S and a saint with a lowercase s? Who wants to have Come on, this is like 7th grade English, right? Yeah, Ron, what's the difference?
One's a football team.
One's a football team. I was wondering whether we were going to get a sports reference. Okay, so capital S could be the football team. Right? The little s's could be anybody. Right.
And the big S.
Right. So they're nouns. Right? We're going to go back to 7th grade English, right? So a proper name, noun, like a football team name, for example, is with a capital S. And if it's a general thing, it's a lowercase s, right? So which kind of saints are we celebrating today? The big S? The lowercase s? Who else? Should we like separate you and move you around? All of them? All of them. Wait a minute, what was all the saints? Was that right in the title of it? Oh my gosh. Wait a minute, all the saints. Yeah, we're celebrating all the saints today. I think one of the things that can happen is it's easy to think of saints as somebody other than us. That person's saintly. Saintly so-and-so who always runs the altar guild, for example. Because who else would do that, right? You know. But all the saints means both all of the kinds of saints that churches are named after, for example. Saint Mary, of course. Saint Paul, Saint John, Saint James, Saint Luke. Yeah, I mean, how many do we want to do? There's a lot of them, right? Saint Francis, we're going to celebrate Saint Nicholas in December. By the way, Dennis, I'll be wanting to see you after church about something. If you happen to be free, that would be great. But we also are doing something today where we're remembering the lowercase saints with these flowers, aren't we? The saints of our own lives. The saints of the people who, through their faithful service, have shown us a path of grace. And it is all these saints together who stand before God. Both the saints with the big S and the saints with the little s. And one of the incredible things, of course, about they're gathered together as the communion of saints is that they're all gathered, mixed together like these flowers. No hierarchy of them. No saint higher than another. The saints who have blessed and we have known in our own lives are just as close to God, those that are gone from us now, as those who heard those words that we heard today from the gospel. It said the disciples who heard those words from the mouth of Jesus. That's the Sermon on the Plain. That was a piece of the Sermon on the Plain we heard today. And none of those saints are perfect. None of them were. Certainly not St. Peter. We know about him a little bit, right? He was always in a hurry to do something. He was always telling Jesus maybe he could do it a little bit different way. He promised he wouldn't forget and abandon Jesus, and he did. And all the saints in our own lives, the little s saints, are a little less than perfect as well. Unless they're on the altar guild. I'm quite a special But it's the imperfections that also leads to the inspiration, isn't it? It's the ability to get above and beyond ourselves, to care for someone else rather than simply praying and acting in faith on our own, that makes them the blessed that we remember today. And I'd like to hear from a few of you. We're going to, of course, have the reading of the names as part of the prayers of the people. And then during communion, you'll be invited to take a flower out for each person you want to remember. and put them in these vases. But I'd like to hear from any of you who's willing to share right now the name of someone in your life that was a saint that you're remembering today. Anybody be willing to share a name or two? Meg?
My grandmother, Josephine.
Your grandmother, Josephine. Is it Mary?
Marianne.
Mary Ann, thank you.
My mom passed away, so she's in
What's her name?
Gladys.
Oh, thank you. Anyone else? Amanda?
My grandfather, Bill Markey.
Your grandfather, Bill. Kevin?
A longtime friend of the family and leader of the Grand Rapids Symphonette a few years ago. Parky was her nickname.
Parky?
She passed away this week. Yeah, Parky.
You'll also hear read today all four of the names of those in our own community who died in the last year. As part of that? Yes.
My husband, Michael David Grady. We've had quite a journey, 56 years.
56
One
years.
hour.
Wonderful. Anyone else who's remembering someone who isn't just family? Family, of course, is a wonderful thing to remember. But thank you for that example, Kevin. We have saints in our lives that can look like any number of people. Yes, Barb.
Our friend Craig.
Craig? Did I see your hand up? Yes.
Elijah Cummings.
Elijah Cummings. It doesn't even just have to be people we know personally, does it? You can be inspired by all kinds of people in this world. I'm going to ask Sally first. Yes.
Battalion Chief in Lansing, Rob Axel.
Okay. Thank you. Meg?
Our friend Gordon Bordeaux from Orangeville. We used to go to St. Francis, Orangeville. He was a stalwart person in the community, a good man.
Good.
Generous with his time and love for other people and family. And he passed away 2 days ago.
Just 2 days ago.
Yeah.
Thank you, Meg. Dan, you had your hand up.
My high school football coach, Bernie Radderink, he was a little All-American at Central Michigan and came to Whitehall when I was a junior and taught us an awful lot, not only about the game and about sportsmanship, but also about some rules of life. He's now deceased, died in the spring. So
He just passed away this last year as well.
last spring.
And you're, of course, welcome to put flowers for any of these folks as well into these vases today. And I appreciate hearing some of these names. We're going to hear a lot of names as part of the service, because it is a reminder that we talk about in the church, we live within the great cloud of witnesses. And the great cloud of witnesses is the church's fancy language of saying, the big S saints and the little s saints aren't gone from us. They are here with us right now. They are with us informing every decision that we make. They have made us who we are. And when we come to the altar, we participate in with them in the banquet of God's kingdom that they are now permanently present to, and someday, God willing, where we will join them. So this is a great day, a day to remember all those saints. I personally am remembering today a woman who was the priest when I came back to church in my 20s. She was the priest down at St. Philip's in Grand Rapids, if you know where that is. It was the neighborhood church I went to. Margaret Neal was her name. Margaret was unlike any Episcopal priest I had ever met before. First of all, she was black. But secondly, when she preached, she did not stand up here with her face in her notes like this, giving you a sermon that sounded like this. Margaret Neal came way down here, and she looked you in the eye when she preached. I'm looking in the eye, I'm not scared. And she was the first preacher in Episcopalian that I had ever met who was willing to shout. Watch out, folks. Not today, I promise. To cry. To hold an uncomfortably long silence. she was visited by the Spirit when she turned 48 and went off to seminary and then served that congregation. And Margaret was hardly a perfect person. She could get really angry. And she had a complicated personal family story that wasn't all worked out. And, talk about imperfect, she was short, too.
That's why she was angry.
But she was certainly faithful and touched by the Spirit. And I, having no money in my 20s and coming to church, wanted to do something to give back to the church. So I served as the general church cleaner and fixer-upper around the building. As I had a chance to spend some time with Margaret, which otherwise I wouldn't during the week. And in one of those conversations, she told me that every morning she had to spend the first hour and a half that she woke up in prayer. I thought, well, I have to spend that hour and a half sleeping. And I didn't understand it for the longest time. But I think what I understand that she needed to do now is that she needed to pray out some of those places where she was imperfect. Her anger, her ongoing family story that was unresolved, so that during the day, she could faithfully serve as a little s saint. I don't know if you're familiar with, there's a famous book that was written by C.S. Lewis, it's not very long, called The Screwtape Letters. The Screwtape Letters, if you don't know, really quickly it's a letter from a major demon to a minor demon about how to get someone who is a saintly person to start to have doubts. Okay? So how to turn someone from the path of righteousness. And it's advice letters. And C.S. Lewis, so it's a little tongue-in-cheek. But the thing about those letters that I was reminded at a convention this week is that at least in half of them, what this devil, Screwtape, suggests to the other devil is to convince that person to pray for things they cannot control. And rather than those things that they can. And isn't that the danger in our own lives? That we get caught in reminding ourselves of our story in the places that we aren't faithful, because we can't be living in them anymore now. Our own past history, the decisions that others made that we couldn't control and gave us pain in our lives. How old we are, how tall we are, what race we are, what gender we are, for time that we've lost, or the family that we were born into, or traffic, or the weather, or the fact that life isn't always fair. Praying about these things aren't things we can control, and they aren't things that God is asking us to be terribly faithful in action around. Instead, did you hear what Jesus said at the end of the gospel about the blessed? Blessed are you, he says again and again. And then he lists the verbs, the actions of those who are the faithfully blessed. To listen, to love, to do good, to pray, to offer, and to give. Those that we each will be remembering today as part of those who are the great communion of saints, the blessed. I would imagine they provided those verbs for you in your life. That was their prayer of what they could control. They listened to you. They loved you. They did good by you. They blessed you. They prayed for you. And they gave to you. Those are the signs of faith. Those are the signs of those who live in communion with God, imperfect as they were. It is enough. And all these saints, of course, do not include just the deceased, but all of us as well. With all of our imperfections, our family histories, our hurts, our past, our being short. Whatever they are, the pieces that we can't control, the pieces that are behind us, when despite those, as all the great saints, both big S and small, when we give those up and remember to listen, to love, to give, to bless, to do good, and to pray, we join them in the house of God. We become the blessed, and in turn, we bless the world. Happy All Saints' Day, all.